Hello,
Oh, hello.
how are you?
I'm good. I'm good.
Good, good.
Yeah. Forgot that you changed the time on me yesterday.
Say it again.
I said I forgot that you changed the time
hmm
yesterday.
You are from Toronto, right? Not
Yeah, yeah,
Montreal.
Toronto. But
Ter-
I lived in
Terrible
Montreal.
what happened today.
Terrible, terrible.
One Jewish man was killed.
And from what I understand, not really. He's still alive.
No, no, he's not.
As of now, you mean he died?
Yeah.
Because around 6 o'clock he was still alive. Or 5 o'clock.
Well, in the Israel news,
Who died?
Michael Mizrahi in Montreal. In the shooting, there was a shooting.
Yes. So there's been a request we do the shear at 7:30 instead of 7 because we go to a Mincha and Ma'ariv minyan, which is a plug minyan, which is over like at 5 to 7. So they don't have enough time to eat dinner. So for now, we may have to move the minyan into different times later on based on
The shiurim, you mean? Not the minyanim, shiurim.
no, the shiurim may have to move based on other later minyanim, whatever. But for now, I think it'll work better at 7:30, and then that'll lead right into our 8 o'clock shiurim or whatever they are.
Yeah, I mean, it's okay. Okay, I don't want to. I mean, it's what do the other people say?
Mario, does that work for you?
Yeah, but that's
Abe?
as of tomorrow, right?
As of tomorrow. Abe, what about for you?
No problem. No problem.
Okay, good. Okay, we're on Nun Gimel, 53.
Okay.
Yesh drusa lechatul or ein drusa lechatul. Just remind, drusa is when an animal swipes with their claw, and we'll see it either has to penetrate deeply. And they understood that we know there's no these animals don't have poison like a snake, but they have infection in their. That's how many of the Achronim understand that this caused significant infection because these predator types animals were clawing and tearing animals apart all the time. So underneath their fingernails, there was like rotting tissue that got infected with bacteria. So when they would strike another animal, that the poison that we're talking about here is in modern day infection because they don't have venom like a snake.
Yeah, but also the paws are always in contact with dirt, right?
With dirt, but they learned that these are predatory animals. So then if according to what you're learning, it would be any animal that would claw, whatever. You know what I'm saying? A predator is an animal that kills other animals.
Okay.
And therefore that tissue gets specially infected. Yesh drus l'chatul o ein drus l'chatul. Can a cat, through its clawing, kill? Amr Lei responded, Af l'chulda yesh drusa. A weasel is even smaller than a cat. And we said it has drusa. So certainly a cat would have drusa. Another shayla. Yesh drusa l'chulda o ein drusa l'chulda. Can a weasel kill? So, Amr Lei, Af l'chatul ein drusa. A cat doesn't have drusa, so certainly a weasel. Now, this is contradictory. First you said it does, now it says you don't. What's going on? A third question. L'chatul u'l'chulda. Yesh len drusa or ein len drusa? Now we ask, a cat and a weasel, do they have drusa or not? Amr le l'chatul yesh drusa l'chulda ein drusa. A cat does, but not a weasel. Now, this seems to be all contradictory. Lo kasha. Hada amr le af l'chulda yesh drusa. When Rav said that a weasel also, like a cat, has drusa, that's ba'oifos. That is, a weasel, when he claws a bird, he can kill them.
Mhm.
Ein drusa. When we say a cat doesn't have drusa, that's be'emirat, large sheep.
But you know, I have a problem with that. Cats do claw.
They may claw, but they can't kill if the animal is too big. If it's a large sheep,
Okay, okay.
Emre Rav Revi, in a large sheep, we said only an animal bigger than a wolf. A wolf and any animal bigger, like a bear or a lion, has the ability to kill. But a wolf is the smallest, so a cat cannot kill a large
Okay.
sheep. Hadamar le lechatul yesh drusa l'chulda ein drusa, bigdaim utloim. When we said a cat can kill but not a weasel, that's little goats and small lambs. Even a cat can kill, but not a weasel. Okay. Boy Ravashi. Shar oifos tmeim. Other predatory birds, hawks, eagles. Yesh len drusa or ein len drusa? We already said the nates and the gas, these are hawks, they have drusa. What about other predatory birds? Armele Avil Ravashi. Kiavinan Be Rav Kana, when we studied in the Yeshiva Rav Kana, Omar, Shar Oifos Tmein Yesh len drusa. Other non-kosher predatory birds have drusa. We said only the hawk has drusa by a small bird, which seems to imply that the other birds know. So the Gemara says drusa sanates but the kavosei. A nates can kill a bird even if it's that other bird is its own size. But ve'inech, the other predatory birds can kill b'dezutriminau, those birds that are smaller than it. But the nates has this unique capability of killing birds even that are its own size. Ikedi amri. Other people learn drusus on nates b'dirabimine. Even the hawk can kill even birds bigger than it. Ve'encha b'dikabasayu. Other predatory birds can kill birds that are the same size. Amrav Kana Mishrain Rav Simi Barashi. Ein drusa l'Shaul. Shaul is a fox. A fox is, of course, much smaller than a wolf, so it does not have the ability to kill a sheep or a goat. Versus Eini. Vaki Asar Avdimi Amar Maisa V'Dor Shual Rochel B'Merchat Shel Beisini. A fox clawed a small sheep in the bathhouse. Ubo Maisa B'nei Chachamim V'Amru Yesh Drusa. They ruled that there was drusa. Rav Safra Ha'i Chatulav. It was not a fox; it was a cat, which we already said has drusa. Iketi Amri Amrav Kana Mishmeid Rav Shimi Barashi Yesh Drusa L'Shual. This version of the discussion started off by saying that the fox has drusa, and then the Gemara asks, "Aini, it's not so." V'Haki Asrav Dimi Amar Ma'asav V'Dor Shul Rachel B'Mechad Shel Beisini Ubo Ma'asav V'Chacham Ramo Ein drusa. And the case came to the Chacham. They said there is no drusa. On Rav Safra, who kelev hava? There was a dog, not a fox. A dog can't, but a shual, according to this version, can. On Rav Yosef, naktinan ein drusa lekelev. like a dog that claws other animals cannot kill it. When we talk about animals killing by clawing, it's got to be the front foreleg, not the back leg. La fuge regel de lo. And ein drusel bitziporen. The nail, the claw, actually has to penetrate. La fuge shein de lo, but not the tooth. If the animal bites another animal, that doesn't necessarily kill him. Ein drusel midas. The animal has to want to intend to prey the other animal, not like it accidentally falls from a roof and its claw goes into the animal. Then that's not drusa. Lafuke shalomi das lo. And ein drusa mechayim. The predator has to be alive. Lafuke lachamisa lo. If after death it sort of fell and penetrated, it doesn't kill. Amri hashta shalomi das amrit lo. Well, that's no chiddush. If you told me that an animal without intent, there's no drusa, so certainly after death, there's no intent. This was a unique case. There was a preying animal clawed another animal, and before it withdrew the claw, they chopped the limb off. That it's when it penetrates with the claw that it kills. No. The poison occurs when you withdraw the claw. A lion, the ox are grazing in the meadow, and a lion goes into the herd. And there's a claw that has been detached from the lion that's in the back of one of the oxen. It's not dead. We don't assume that lion, the live lion, did it. My time. There's a reason. Rava Rayas Dorson Umotin Indors. Most lions claw. But when the majority of lions, when they claw, the claw doesn't get removed. There may have been some detached claw against a fence, and it's very common that animals like oxen will scratch their back against a fence. And maybe the claw was inside the back of the ox not because the lion did it, but because they got it from a fence. The Gemara says, I can logically go the other way. Adarabba. Rav Shvarim is chakim umiotan aim chakim. The majority of oxen do scratch themselves. But the majority of animals, when they scratch against a fence, a claw doesn't embed itself. If we see a claw, it makes more logic that it got it from the lion. But you can see logically go both ways. So halacha says uki milsa achazke. You leave the animal has becheskas kashrus. You leave it becheskas kashrus. Rav held in general havale sofik drusa. When there was a doubt whether a clawing occurred, we are makel. The Rav l'tamei de Omer ein choshen l'sofik drusa. If it's just a doubt whether a drusa occurred, we have no chashash about that. You don't have to check the animal after shechita. Omer Abai lo amar ne'letzipoiret. That's if you find a detached claw. But let's say you see a claw mark. Well, then you have to be choshesh. And when you find a claw, Rav says it's permitted only when it's moist. Aval Yevesha of the Mishtamta. But a dry claw will become detached from a lion when it's dry. So that might be from the lion. And then Rav would not permit. Rav only permits if there's one claw. But if you see 2 or 3 claws, what must be from the lion? As long as it's in a row, like a claw, like a hand claw, where one after another, not like they're separated all over the place. Itmar. This issue about Safek Drusa is a machlokes Rav and Shmuel. Rav Amar and Choshen Safek Drusa. We don't worry about Safek Drusa. Shmuel Amar Choshen Safek Drusa. Even if we're not sure, it's a possibility that it was Drusa. You have to check the end. And the Gemara will explain the machlokas even more. Kulam Safek al Safek lo al. If there's a question, did the lion come into the herd or not? So you can say Emalo al. It maybe didn't go in. And then Safek Kalba, Safek Shunra. Even if you find that the animal was clawed, but it might be a dog or a cat, and we say there's no problem with the dog, Ema Kalba. No shot, no argument. Al Shasik ve'esa b'nayu. The lion is not roaring. It just is sitting around with the other oxen. So he made peace with them, and he didn't damage them. But or let's say he tore one of the oxen's head off. So these lions get enraged, and he dissipated his rage. Another reason to say that the other animals don't have to be checked. If the lion is roaring and they are like mooing, each one is frightening the other off. And then we're not choishish that the lion clawed one of them. Ki pligi, where's the machlokas Rav and Shmuel? The iu karshosik v'inu kamakarkara. The lion is quiet, and the cows are mooing. Shmuel says they're mooing because one of them got clawed. They're just mooing because they're afraid, but nothing really happened to them. So the halacha here follows Shmuel, which is unusual. Right? Most times we paskin like Rav against Shmuel. But here the Gemara says the halacha is like Shmuel. How can you go against Rav? Ameimar had not heard the psak from Rav, or he didn't hold of it. Or some people say Rav went back on his halach and agreed with Shmuel. Dahu Sharkafa, the Safek Drusas Dosel Kamei Rav. There were a bunch of birds in a basket that were brought to Rav. There was a Safek that they were clawed. Shadrin Lakamei Shmuel. He, rather than responding, he sent it to Shmuel. And what did Shmuel do? Chankinu Ushtinu Benara. He choked them and threw them in the river. Obviously, he paskined that they were treif. Now, if Rav had not changed his mind, Lishrinu, Rav should have just simply mattered them. Must be he changed his mind and joined Shmuel. So Elamai Hoder Be Lishrinu. So if he changed his mind, why did he send it to Shmuel? Just answer it. This was the city of Shmuel. And it's not proper to paskin in somebody else's jurisdiction. Now the Gemara is going to ask about Shmuel's choking them and throwing them in the river. Just throw them in the river and drown them. So the Gemara says, "B'farchim v'salkim," but they're going to fly away. And somebody else, another Jew, will get it and eat a treif bird. Another advice, we know this is a suffix, that it's a treifa, suffix it's not. Now, what do we know about a treifa? Cannot live 12 months. So let the birds hang around for 12 months. Those birds that live are kosher birds. Well, in the 12 months, somebody's going to sell them or shecht it and eat it to another Jew. So that's why he didn't want to do that. You can sell treifas to go like kelef tashlichun also. You can sell treifas. You can have a no from a treifa. Also,
I don't understand. How come Rav couldn't take the birds and just sell them to somebody? Why do you have to strangle them?
We went.
Yeah, I know. I understand.
Okay. So now the Gemara asks, like Shmuel, like Walter said, sell it to a non-Jew. You can't sell it to a Jew.
No, I understand that.
Okay, sell it to a non-Jew. However, also Israel, they're going to turn around and sell it to another Jew, and the Jew will eat treifas. Now, what is this deal? What is this business of choking them and throwing them in the river?
How come we don't have that by regularly? That you sell it to a guy, then he's going to sell it back to a Jew, right? It's shechted, and he's going to sell it back to a Jew and say, okay, it's kosher. Yeah, well, why don't we ever have that? Why do we have it by birds?
So let me think what you're saying. You're saying, like the cases in the Schlachthauses,
right?
Where they find a treif animal. Okay, but the goyim. So in America, they're not worried. Remember the FDA.
I'm sure they did that before. It's not a new minhag.
Right. So if the goy was caught doing that, they would never sell it to the goy again. Perhaps he was fearful of that. I hear your question. It's a good question.
In other words, for sure, you have a lachatchila here with the birds, according to Rav. There's no b'diavad. There's no.
No, Shmuel.
I mean, Shmuel.
Rav changed his mind and agreed with Shmuel.
Okay.
So right now we're holding that we shouldn't sell it because the Jew is going to slaughter them. Remember, this is a live bird. So the goy is going to sell the bird to a Jew, and the Jew's going to slaughter it. He doesn't know any of these. He doesn't know that it was a suffix drusa, and he's going to come to eat it. You're talking about is after they shechted it.
Yeah,
how can a Jew buy a kosher meat from a goy?
Yeah,
You're not going to do it.
It's less of a chashash, much less.
It's much less. Here, the problem is it's a live animal, and therefore, Walter's point is not so pashut. If you buy from a goy, you're gonna a live animal. You're gonna probably have to make sure it's checked because maybe he knows that it's treif and he's not going to tell you about that. Okay. Says the Gemara. Let him choke it and throw it in the garbage. What's he throwing in the river for? What does that do? Accomplishing? Okay, but I mean, okay. You could also say throw in the dogs. Shmuel he wanted to do this very publicly. This was a special sugya of birds that were clawed. And he wanted to establish the halacha that we hold suffix drusa, we're machmir. So that's why it was done with this big publicity. Ahu bar avza Ravashi. There was a duck. The duck wandered into like a field that had a lot of sharp reeds, and it had some spots of blood on its neck. Or Ravashi lo minan sofik kalba sofik shunra. That didn't we already say if you have a question whether it's a dog or a cat, we say emer kalba. Hachanami sofik kanya sofik shunra emer kanya mechaye. Here too could have been a cat, which would have assered it, but maybe it's a reed, and the reed alone you may have to check the simonim that that doesn't have a hole in it, but you don't have to do all examination like by a drusa. So you're allowed to say that it's the reed that did it, and therefore there's less of a problem. Now, we said that by a drusa you have to do a post-shchita examination. So Amri b'nei Rav Chia drusa she'anu tzricha b'dika k'neged b'nei me'ayim. You have to check all the intestines to make sure that there aren't any holes, or not just holes. They would become red. And if it's red, then it's a puzzle. Because if it lived long, then eventually it would get a hole. So it's only kosher if they find nothing. Rav Yosef. This halacha of the Bnei Rav Chia, Shmuel Harei said, Domer Shmuel, Mishum Rav Chanina ben Antignas, an earlier Tana, Drusa Shamu Tzricha B'dika K'neged Nemei. Boy Ilfa. Ilfa asked, Yesh Drusa li Simonim or Ein Drusa Simonim? If it was clawed in the neck, do the Simonim is it a problem with the simonim, or we say they're immune to the defects? Intestines can get sick, but not these. This clawed animal has to everything in the abdominal cavity and the lung cavity and the simonim. The halal includes the abdominal and lung cavity. We said that if simonim are dislocated, then it's treif. How much? That which Rav Ilfa asked was explained. Majority of the simonim have to be dislocated. Boy, Rav Papa. Some of the animals' flesh is rotting. How much? Once you see reddening in the intestines, it's already treif. If you see that it's rotted away, so we view that piece as if it's not there. So we've learned certain things are missing. The animal is treif. So if that organ is rotting, you view it as if the organ's not there. How do you define that? I've been called, I don't know, hundreds of times. Somebody has a necrotic infection. Necrotic means dead tissue. And you have to scrape away the dead tissue down to live tissue until you see granulation tissue. You have to cut away the tissue. So the same thing. Anything that the doctor would scrape away is considered mismases. In the yeshiva of Rav Kana, they brought a lung. When they light it on the table, it was fine. But they held it up, pieces would fall from it. Since it's decaying, we view it as if it's not there. If it's not there, it's got a hole. A hole in the lung makes it a treif. Rav Nachman Amar b'koitz achinokov l'kchala. Not an animal. Let's say a thorn in the field. So if it pierces all the way to the body cavity, either the chest or the abdominal wall. Now, bidrusa mishiyadim basar k'neged memei. An animal that was clawed It's treif if the viscera become reddened. Razvid masni hachi. But Razvid learned a different way. Bedrusa mishiatim basar kneged bemeai. By drusa, it has to become red. Besimonim achiadimu simonim atzmo. The esophagus and the trachea, the whole thing has to become red. Okay, we'll stop here.
Right, so tomorrow's 7:30.
Tomorrow, 7:30.
7:30.
And
Will we
then-
have enough? Will we have enough time to get to the next year at 8:00?
So
Let me
tomorrow,
ask you a question. Would 7:15 work?
7:15 is better. 7:15.
Let's do 7:15.
Yeah, just so
Okay.
that you
All right.
you're covered.
Yeah. No, we have it's a detailed daf tomorrow. So
Yeah. Let's do 7:15. I don't want it to. Then we go.
good
into-
idea. 7:15. Thank you, everybody.
Okay.